Good morning, folks. Millennial Waterfowl here, back at you guys with another video. So today I wanted to talk about harvesting game. Now I'm sure tons of people are going to tell you about you can do this, you can do that, recipes, etc., etc. And we'll touch on some of those things that I like to do on a regular basis, as far as what I do when I do harvest and I am successful in the field, and what I like to do with my meat. And we'll start out with waterfowl. We'll work our way into some other categories too, because there's plenty of things to discuss on this. Excuse me. So the first thing I want to talk about is, what do you do when you shoot your birds? When you shoot ducks, when you shoot geese, teal, what do you guys like to do with them? How do you dispatch them if you wound one, etc., etc.? So what I like to do, there's a common thing out there that everybody likes to do, and they call it wringing the neck or snapping their neck. It's somewhat of in my opinion, the most ethical thing you can do to finally dispatch a bird, but there's a proper technique to everything. A lot of people that I've hunted with that are first starting out hunting, and they'll shoot a bird and they'll wound it, but they won't kill it instantly when it lands in the water. So they'll go out, they'll grab it, and they won't grip it hard enough on the neck when they twist and turn real quick in one motion. And the bird just, in my opinion, kind of suffers for a minute. And it's terrible. It sucks. It's not the best thing to do. So what I like to tell people is, grab it like you're holding on for dear life. Just, like a scoop of ice cream, really quick. Scoop. Done. It's over. Nerves, everything will go from there. But the problem is when you tell someone to do that, sometimes they do it too hard and they separate the head from the body, and the body goes one way and you're holding half the bird in the other hand, and that sucks. Another thing people like to do is take like one of those pins that you can buy, and there's like a soft spot in the back of their head, and they just stick that down in there. I've never done that. I'm sure it works. Some people like to carry a knife. Some people, grab their body and smack their head on. I don't know, as far as all that goes, as it being the most ethical thing to do to dispatch a bird, but we all have our ways, and we'll kind of move on from that. I just like to do the ice cream scoop, one quick motion, grab it, scoop, you're done. You do it hard once, you don't have to worry, you get the technique down after a little while. Some people will just shoot them again. It depends on the situation you're in, as far as, how far they are, if they're still swimming, if they're diving, blah, 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 blah. But back to the topic, what do I do when I harvest my meat? So we'll play the perfect world scenario. We take our waterfowl's life. It's over. It's been dispatched. We go out. We get it. What do we do with it after that? Here's the difference that I have found for me, and I haven't seen very many other people do this. Maybe I just haven't asked. A lot of people will hang their birds up by the top of their head and hang them up on one of those carriers that you can carry your birds out with, and walk out with them. Now what I like to do, because there are regulations on it as far as field dressing animals, and you can't necessarily, in certain places, in certain counties, in certain states, and certain regulations for certain areas, let me cover that, you're not allowed to field dress your waterfowl. And that's for many reasons. You're going to pull feathers everywhere, you're going to make a mess. A lot of people would just throw their birds and they just start to rot. So there is a reason behind it, and I believe in that. That's one of the laws that I think is actually a good law. You can do many different things as far as still field dressing your ducks. And if you're like me, I like my meat to be fresh, and I don't like it to kind of spoil. I don't like it to get real nasty. And I haven't done this every time, but I like to do it a lot now. And so what I like to do is I like to bleed my birds just like you would a fish. You know, you go underneath the gills, tip them upside down, and, you know, separate it a little bit and let the blood just pump out, or let the blood just flow out. It does make a difference. And if you don't believe me, please go out and try it. Please, just give it a shot. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But a lot of people will tell you that the meat, you know, is gamey, it's dark, it doesn't have a lot of fat on it, it has a special taste. That's fine. People will tell you there's all types of remedies you do to make it taste better. So be it. Everything is a learning experience for you as a hunter, for you as a harvester, for you as a cook. I like to soak my meat when I get home from the hunt. I like to get it all done. I don't like to go to bed and leave it in a cooler. I don't like to let it sit all day. If we shoot, you know, 5, 6 birds or 1 or 2 birds, first thing I like to do when I get home, I don't take a nap and get in the shower and, you know, I put everything away, and the first thing I'm going to do is clean my harvest. And what I like to do with that is, you know, get them all cleaned up, and I like to breast my birds out. That's one of my favorite things to do. There is a little bit more meat on some of the places you could say is a waste, but as far as like teal, dove, that's what I like to do, as far as, you know, just get the meat out and get it cleaned up. I like to get a nice bowl of ice water and peel that little silky layer, you know, that's kind of like holographic, or, you know, it's shiny on the outsides of the breasts. I like to get rid of that. And you got to take your time. The biggest thing with this is, you know, you can rip and run and rip and run and rip and run, but the more you handle your fowl in a more, I wouldn't say respectful way, but the more you take your time and put a little pride into it, I promise you the better outcome you're going to have with your food. Because there's so many people that just, you know, rip, peel, pull the sternum, and just set it down, and you're done, and it's over. And you're going to get a consistent thing from that, and I get that. But if you take your time, you peel that skin up, and you put a little process into it, you're going to be a lot happier. And a lot of people say, well, I already do that right off the bat. You know, I soak them, yeah, I peel that layer off, I trim everything. Well, here's the kicker, and some of you guys may do this, and here's some of you guys may not. The blood, in my opinion, gives it a distinct flavor. And there's plenty of ways, there's plenty of remedies to get the blood out of the meat, so you kind of have a nice base to work off of as far as seasoning, spicing. No, I'm not going to sit there and tell you I jerky every single bird I kill. Excuse me. Dealing with a little bit of a head cold. What I like to do is I try to spice it up a little bit. You know, do a couple things with this bird, do a couple things, get on the internet and see what's out there. There's so many different recipes that, you know, you can explore. Write down in a journal, say, hey, I'm going to do this with this amount of birds, and then I'm going to experiment with this, and I'm going to try this, and I'm going to do that. For those guys that are out there shooting, you know, 300 birds a season, 200 birds a season, however many limits you want to claim that you're harvesting, and you actually may well very do, it's got to get old just to jerky, you know, 40 pounds of duck. And it's not that it doesn't taste good, but every single hunter not every single hunter, but most of the people I come across, what do you do with your birds? Oh, I jerky it. Do you? Do you really jerky it every single time? Don't you get kind of like, you know, I like to take 10 birds, beginning of the season, my teal especially, wrap them in bacon, jalapeno, etc., fry them up like dove. It's delicious. It really is. But the kicker is I soak my meat in 2 things to make it taste better. First round is milk. Whole milk, 2%, vitamin D, organic, doesn't matter in my opinion. You're not going to taste it. It's not going to serve any purpose as far as, like, in my opinion, doing anything aside from extracting the blood and all the stuff you don't want in the meat. Now, this is just for my waterfowl. I don't do this with dove. I don't do this with deer. I don't do this with elk. I don't do it with a lot of things. But my waterfowl, my ducks, big duck, mallards, teal, widgeon, etc., geese, snows, blues, specks, all that good stuff. Soak your meat in milk. Pour a big bowl. It's not really a waste. It really is worth it. And let them sit till the milk turns pink. Okay? Once that milk turns pink, you need to rinse out the water, or rinse out the bowl of milk, and wash the meat off till it doesn't have that white glaze on it anymore. Once you've done that, you're going to get some orange juice. Now you can buy cheap orange juice from the gas station. You don't have to buy the best orange juice, because wasting good orange juice, in my opinion, is just terrible. Shout out to Monster for their orange. Love it. But you're going to soak them in orange juice next. And people say, well, there's acid in that. That's going to start cooking it. Okay, to an extent, it might. Probably. But you're not going to do this till you're about to prepare everything. So when you do these two steps, you kind of want to be prepared that today's the day that you're going to be either firing up the smoker, or firing up the grill, or, you know, whatever your process, you're going to turn on the oven or fire up the skillet. You've got time, folks. It's not like it's an oh my god. Now you're going to do the exact same process with the orange juice. You're going to put your food, your harvest, your birds, in the orange juice, and let that sit till the orange juice turns off pink. It shouldn't be like oh my god pink, because you got most of it out with the orange juice, but this is going to give it a little bit of a more of a tender feel, and it's going to pull a lot of the game out of it. Not saying I don't like the game. It's just easier to cook generically with. Like if you made tacos, or if you made chili or fajitas, or, you know, whatever, you know, spaghetti, it really, really, really works. So you take your meat, you put it in the orange juice, you let it soak. Now what do we do? Well, once that process is done, it's pretty much ready to go. You know, you can season it, you can put a rub on it, you can do whatever you want. And the best way I've found to cook it is I like to slice it up really thin. And again, you're not going to get a lot of yield from a teal, and you're not going to get a huge amount of meat from a duck. So, you know, you try to save up a few, make a batch of them, 4 or 5, maybe 6 birds, depending on how many people you're trying to feed. If it's just you, that's fine. Do 1 or 2 birds. And I like to slice it up real thin. And when you do that, and when you do slice it up real thin, you're going to be able to see where your progress went based off of how long you left the milk and the orange juice process with your birds. You do those two things, and it's going to pull the blood out, and you're going to be able to see not necessarily transparent meat, but it's going to look a lot better. It's going to look a lot cleaner. That also gives you a chance that if there's BBs or bird shot still in the breast or in that area, you can remove them safely, and then you can mix it with vegetables, stir fry it, spaghetti. There's so many different delicious recipes where you're not going to even say, wow, that's duck. Like, I had no idea. Like, that was a wild animal. And for people that are a little sensitive to wild game, that particular process helps. Now, don't get me wrong, there's guys out there that'll just cut the bird open, throw it on the grill as it is, and eat it and think it tastes delicious as it is. I'm not knocking that. I'm not saying that, you know, you're ruining it or you're doing your own process differently. This is just an option, folks. This is not my opinion of what you have to do. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm just giving you guys a quick tip on what I like to do. My wife likes to eat it that way. I don't mind it that way. And it works out for the best. And especially if you're feeding your kiddos, you don't want them to choke on a BB. You don't want them to swallow, you know, steel shot or something like that, or chip a tooth on something like that. And that's kind of like one of those sure ways that, you know, you can go through your animal and make sure that, you know, you've cleaned it out the best you can, and there's, you know, there's nothing in there that snuck up on the backside if you shot it from the backside flying away, that nothing embedded up into that breast that you can't see, and it really helps. So that's just some really small little quick tips that I do when I harvest waterfowl. I do the same thing with my turkey, my wild turkey. If you've ever shot a wild turkey, whether it be a Rio, a Miriam, Easterns, whatever you guys want to call them, different states have different birds, species, but if you've ever harvested a turkey, you're always going to notice that, you know, the meat is a lot darker. Especially a wild bird, not something that, you know, has been eating bird feed or, you know, lived at Walmart for 10 minutes and, you know, was just completely white. They do have a different taste. They do have a distinct, not odor, but they smell different. They're different. It's wild. It's gonna be different. And I like to do the same thing with that. I love to make turkey sandwiches just like the next person. Pour a little gravy on it. But again, with my wild turkey, same thing. I like to soak it in milk and orange juice and then add my flavors, whether you use Lowry's or Thousand Island dressing, and let it marinate. There's so many different processes that you can try and Google and look up and ask other hunters. That's one of the things I love to always ask someone else when I get in the woods. Hey, how do you cook your meat? How do you cook your birds? And don't get me wrong, I have a really good smoking recipe. You know, I put vodka in the bottom of a pan with my chips, and sometimes I put a little cranberry juice in there with it, and that keeps it a little bit more moist. And I put brown sugar on them with a spicy rub, or there's so many different things that you can do to pop a flavor into that meat to make it taste wonderful. But there's so many things you can do besides just wrapping it in bacon and a jalapeno, or sticking it in the oven and praying that it doesn't turn out terrible. I mean, I have made duck and goose and not like the taste of it. I have done that, and I haven't wasted it. I fed it to my dogs. I didn't put anything on it that would hurt them, but I'm not going to waste the meat. A lot of people I haven't really heard use the meat for dog food, and I do. Not every single bird, but the legs. If I make one like a turkey for the dogs, I'll cut it up. I won't put very much seasoning on it, maybe just a little bit of salt, and I'll bake it in the oven and just a little bit of water, and I'll take all the bones off and mix it up with a little bit of dry dog food, and really good for them. I don't do that every single hunt. I don't do that every single time, but it's a nice treat for the animal that you're rewarding. And I've never gotten hard mouth from a dog from that. I've never said, you feed it too much meat, it's going to get mean and aggressive. Again, this is a treat, guys. This is something you do every once in a while to feed your animal. Or it's not, how many of you guys take your dog and fry him up a chicken breast for him only, or for her only? I'm not saying you have to. I'm not saying you're messing up their diet. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying it's something I do every now and again. And it's nice. You're giving back. You're rewarding yourself. You're not wasting anything. So I always like to take that meat. If I'm just breasting out a duck and there's a couple, 3, 4 pieces of the duck left wrapped around their little leg, or the heart or the gizzard or something, I'll clean that all out and whatever, and I'll throw that in a bag or a Tupperware and throw that in the freezer. And then when I get a few rounded up, I'll cook them up and feed them to the dog, and they love it. And it's not that I don't like it and I won't eat it and I'm not good enough for it. It's just, it's a snack. It's a treat. It's something that you're doing as a reward to your animal that you don't have to do. I'm not telling you what to do, and your dog may have a weak stomach and that wouldn't work. So take that for what it's worth, and you go from there. It's not necessarily the worst thing in the world to do, but it's an option out there. There's plenty of new hunters out every day that are popping up, and they don't know what to do with the meat, or they don't know how to cook it. And these are just some things that I'm telling you guys that I do. Again, my opinion, not the right opinion. It's my opinion. This is something I've done, and every day is a learning curve. You've got to try new things. You've got to be diverse in perception of everything. If you just keep doing the main thing, you're going to get bored. And I'm not telling you I ever get bored of waterfowl hunting, because I don't. But I like to mix it up a little bit, and it's the spice of life. It's something to try. And when you do those things, you'll learn some stuff all by yourself with, nobody here on the internet telling you what to do. And that's how I've done it, because where I was raised, and there was like 2 recipes. You're either jerkying it, or, you're making tacos with it. I mean, there's more to life than that. And the meat really can be used in better ways. There's so many things you can research. So if you like the video, go ahead and shoot me a like. It helps me out. I'm just starting out, guys. I've got a dozen or 2 videos out that I'm just up and coming. The season's coming up, so I won't just be talking all the time to you guys. We'll be out on hunts, saving up to get a new GoPro so we can get out in the field, get out in the water. If you guys know any really good cameras to use and as far as stuff like that, I'm definitely looking for one that you know is going to be versatile, have a good battery. I know it's going to get cold and batteries don't work too well in the cold, so leave a comment down below on what you guys use, what works the best. I sure appreciate your guys' time. Millennial Waterfowl, out.